we'll get a note. Thank you so much. All right. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for today's Unsheltered Point in Time Count training. My name is Bree Phillips, and I'm the COC Systems Coordinator at CARES of New York, where I work with the Systems and Strategic Planning Committees. Having previously worked as a Street Outreach Program Manager, I've spent several years out in the community leading the efforts of point in time counts and look forward to supporting all of you as we prepare for this year's. As I review today's agenda, I would like to ask each lead agency on the call to be prepared for me to call on them after this for introductions. So for our training agenda today, we will first review the housing and inventory chart point in time count basics, the charge from HUD, the housing and inventory chart versus point in time count, sheltered versus unsheltered count, confirmation of the point in time count date, review the methodology forms for unsheltered point in time count lead completion, discuss and edit the 2023 survey and observation tool, discuss and confirm the recommended changes, review the 2023 unsheltered point in time count timeline, as well as the next steps. So I'm going to pause sharing my screen right here, and I'm going to call on individuals to ask if they could please share out with us what agency they've come from and if they have as well participated in the point in time count before. So I'm wondering if we have anyone on the call from Arbor Housing and Development today.
Yep, that's me. Good morning. My name is Liz Weatherby. I'm with Arbor Housing, and this will be my third point in time count that I have participated in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Liz. Do we have anyone on the call here from Accord Inc.?
Good morning. This is Patty Graves. I'm the Assistant Housing Director here at Accord, and this is my 6th or 7th year with the point in time count.
Wonderful.
I do believe we were also having Darla, my housing manager, was going to join, but I don't see her in the scroll yet.
Okay.
So she will be joining just momentarily.
Not a problem. Thank you so much, Patty. And do we have anyone here from Livingston County DSS?
Yep, my name is Marcia Mitchell. I am Director of Financial Assistance for Livingston. Andrew Tim was our previous housing coordinator. I have a new housing coordinator, Crystal Burns. She is also on. I have only been involved in PIT from a peripheral standpoint. So Crystal and I will be co-adventuring it this year.
Wonderful. And Crystal, thank you very much for joining us today as well.
Thank you.
And lastly, I'm wondering if there's individuals from Catholic Charities of Chemung and Schuyler counties.
Hi, my name's Susie. I'm the Director of Emergency Services. I got on a few minutes late, so I'm guessing that you were asking how long people have done the PIT count.
Yes, that would be correct.
I've probably done it for maybe the last 10 years around there. And I have a new, she's not able to be on the call, but I have a new manager for our sheltering services, Lisa White, that will also be learning how to do and what we do for PIT this year.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I see also we have Paula on the call. Paula, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, everyone. I'm the HMIS administrator for the New York 501.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I do see we have someone coming in also through a phone with audio. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please feel free.
I think that's Crystal.
Okay, not a problem then. All right, so I will jump right back into our presentation.
Could I just ask if you have, could you see if anyone's in the waiting area? Darla sent me a message and says that she's waiting. I'm sorry.
I don't see her currently at the moment. Do you see her, Kels?
Okay.
I don't. I noticed that our meeting invite had a join little tab at the top that's different than the Zoom link, unfortunately. So maybe she joined.
I think she might be under the Teams because that's where I went in first. and
Gotcha.
then realized, so, if you
I'll
ask
send you
her
the
to,
other.
yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll message everybody as well right now.
Thank
And
you.
then I
so
think, Bree, did we miss anybody?
Well, you did, and I
Yes.
wanted to make sure I should be on this call. This is Amber Watson. I'm the homeless program supervisor for the Bath VA. Before myself, it was Michelle Sinque Gralia. I've participated in the pit count, but just on a different level.
I
Awesome.
think it's great for you to be here, Amber. We do try to, specifically think about how to best identify veterans experiencing unsheltered homelessness. So I think your experience is helpful.
Perfect. Then I will stay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. So we've already reviewed everyone here today that are on our unsheltered pit leads. And right now we are proposing a date of January 25th of 2023 for the upcoming unsheltered point in time count date. As this is confirmed, there will be an email that is sent out to your board and membership with the confirmed date. And we've also already covered most of this in our agenda, but here are a few of the goals that we have for today's trainings. We'll review our housing inventory chart and point in time count basics, discuss the methodologies and best practices for the unsheltered pit count, review and edit the survey and observation tools, confirm the leads and dates, as well as review the timeline. Under Section 578 of the COC Program Interim Rule, COCs must plan and conduct a point-in-time count of homeless persons within your geographic area. Section 578.3 of the COC Program Interim Rule states that point-in-time counts are carried out on one night in the last 10 calendar days of January or at such other times as required by HUD. HUD has historically, through notices of funding opportunity, required COCs to conduct an annual housing inventory chart and point-in-time count to receive maximum points in the annual COC program competition and anticipates continuing this practice for the indefinite future. The housing inventory chart and point-in-time count data will continue to provide critical updates on national and local progress towards preventing and ending homelessness. Next, we will review the housing inventory chart and point-in-time count basics. In the past, we have had questions about the timing of the point-in-time count. This graphic is from HUD's notice, which describes a bit more of when you can conduct the point-in-time count, ensuring that you are pointing back to one single night. The housing inventory chart versus the point-in-time count. The housing inventory chart is an inventory of all dedicated homeless beds. This includes emergency shelter, transitional housing, safe haven, permanent supportive housing, and rapid rehousing beds. It is conducted in the last 10 days in January on the same date as the point-in-time count and informs the homeless assistance community on unit and bed capacity. The point-in-time count is a count of everyone experiencing homelessness on one single night. This includes sheltered and unsheltered individuals. It is conducted in the last 10 days in January, and its purpose is to provide the homeless assistance community with data needed to understand the number and characteristics of persons who are homeless at one point in time. For the sheltered versus unsheltered point-in-time count. The sheltered point-in-time count is a count of all persons in emergency shelter, hotel or motel paid for by the Department of Social Services, or a not-for-profit, transitional housing, or safe haven on the night of the count. Again, it is conducted in the last 10 days in January, and this is led by Catholic Charities of Chemung and Schuyler, our HMIS lead. Also, for the unsheltered point-in-time count, this is a count of all persons residing in a place not meant for human habitation on the night of the count. It is conducted in the last 10 days in January and is led by the COC Unsheltered Pit Leads yourself per county. We recommend these HUD infectious disease safety guidelines as it applies to your community. It is recommended that all participants adhere to the following. Provide personal protective equipment, PPE, for your volunteers. Design volunteer processes and trainings that minimize close contact. And provide volunteers a variety of service opportunities, such as data entry. Here are best practices that have been reported to us by service providers who have completed the count in prior years. At the end of this slide, I will ask if any agencies on the call would also like to share their best practices with us that we could include in a guideline. Number 1, we recommend reaching out to your local law enforcement and community agencies before the date of the unsheltered point in time count. It's important to let them know of when you'll be going out and what your initiative is that day. Number 2, consider wearing agency t-shirts or lanyards again to identify yourself as a group, and consider bringing marketing materials or basic necessity items to help refer individuals that you meet. Number 3, it is safest when conducting the point in time count to walk around in pairs, but before approaching a community member, pick which one of you would be the lead of the conversation and who will be there to support. And lastly, number 4, if a member of the community is not interested in completing the survey, ask them if they are aware of any other locations that may not have been identified, as many of these individuals are experts in their communities as well. So as I transition next to the methodology forms, I would like to open it up to discussion if any agencies here would like to share with us some of their best practices.
And I'll just add there, I know that in 501, particularly in the more rural areas, that some folks don't do necessarily, canvassing on the street, but more so kind of counting those who come in for services on the night of the count. So any best practices related to that, please also feel free to share.
All right. Well, if we don't have anyone that would like to share anything, we can continue on with the presentation. Is there anyone that would like to add anything? Okay. So as per usual, we are asking that you fill out 3 methodology forms. And the purpose of these are to share how you overall are conducting the unsheltered point in time count in terms of the stakeholders you are engaging, locations you are reaching out to, as well as how you are doing that specifically with veterans and with youth. The purpose of this is that we will need to speak to this information when we submit the point in time count to HUD, and it will also be used to submit the COC applications. If you have any further questions, please let us know. Otherwise, we would like them returned to us by January 11th. The next thing that we are going to review is our survey tool for the date of the count. For the 2023 Unsheltered survey, the only changes that HUD is recommending are regarding demographics, including age, gender, race, and ethnicity. As a reminder, the first page covers the head of household, and the additional pages cover any other members within the household. Are there any questions that anyone has regarding the questions or comments related to the updates on the Unsheltered point in time count survey? All right. And the last thing that we will review today is our unsheltered point in time count timeline. So today we are here conducting the webinar for the review of the point in time count and housing inventory chart. On December 22nd, the collaborative applicant will send you at the COC memberships the date of the confirmation of the point in time count. On January 11th, as the PIT lead, you will complete the methodology forms and return them to us, the collaborative applicant, and your HMIS lead. On January 16th, the collaborative applicant will touch base with leads to review methodology and hotspot locations for the count. On January 17th, you will receive an email stating that the COC and HICPIT participants are 1 week out from the point in time count. On January 24th, an email will be sent out to remind you that you are 1 day away from the count. And on January 25th, you as the county leads will conduct the unsheltered point in time count. On February 1st, all unsheltered PIT forms will be due to the county leads 1 week after the PIT count. And on February 15th, the county leads for those noted as unsheltered and unstably housed will send their information to the HMIS lead 3 weeks after the point in time count. In March, the HMIS lead will forward a spreadsheet of collated unsheltered count data, not including those unstably housed, to us, the collaborative applicant, by mid-March. And also in March, the collaborative applicant will enter all information into HDX, as well as draft a data memo for the community to review. In April of 2023, the HMIS lead will submit the HIC and PIT to HUD. And there is an additional task in late December and early July for all county level unsheltered PIT leads to recruit and train PIT count volunteers and program staff. And that is the last thing that we had to cover today. So I'd like to open it up if anyone on this call has any further questions for us regarding the point in time count.
I'd like to make a few comments. We go through this every year, and I know some people are new. Please remember to identify your agency and your program on the survey for the sheltered. So some people have multiple, and unfortunately they're not here, but in Livingston County, for instance, Chances and Changes, all of their surveys will be sheltered. Well, they may have some unsheltered in there, but they have a lot of sheltered programs that are not in the HMIS. The program needs to be identified, since there's going to be 2 or 3 of them. And, you know, some are rapid rehousing, some are shelters, and I need to be able to differentiate on those on those forms. So if you're reporting out numbers that are not in the HMIS. Now, the other thing that happens quite frequently, and it's nobody's fault, it's just an adjustment. The DSSs are now largely in the HMIS, and in past years, they've still submitted forms for sheltered in a motel bed. You don't need to do that. If you're putting your data in the HMIS, I have it. So don't fill out any forms for your sheltered people that you've entered into the HMIS. Now, if you've had people that come to your door that are homeless, that, you know, that's a different survey and that you should complete. I appreciate it when the leads reach out to their local schools to have them, you know, some counties do a wonderful job with that. Steuben comes to mind, where they've really had good participation from their schools, because they also know about those at-risk population where children are living with various other people, and they do report that out. So getting the surveys to us as quickly as possible is always great. You can scan them and send them to my email. And then we'll make sure that CARES gets the whatever information they require, but we enter them into a database where there's no identifying information. It's all coded so that we can deduplicate in case people are crossing over or being captured by for instance, in Allegheny DSS and also Allegheny in Accord, both of you have spoken with the same person, or a person that you house has actually spoken to DSS and reported themselves as homeless or something of that nature when they're actually housed. So we catch those kinds of things with the surveys. We can really, there tends to be enough information to duplicate in most cases when we have duplicate surveys. So being clear whether they're at risk or homeless or housed by a program not in the HMIS is really critical on those surveys so that we can move through them and get them compiled. Thanks. If you have any questions about that at any time, though, you can always ask me.
Those are great points. Thanks, Paula. Do you think we'd be happy to add to the survey tool, at the top, both agency and program name, as well as a reminder that if this data is already in HMIS, you don't need to conduct the survey. Would that be helpful reminders right on the form?
That would be wonderful to actually add that, because that is something that we see year after year. I'll be like, wait a minute, I see them in the HMIS, they're currently, and I've got a survey there for them. And we don't want to make those kinds of mistakes. So we definitely spend a lot of time really looking to make sure that they're not being represented in HMIS data when we have a survey. So that would probably cut down a little bit on some of that.
That's great. Okay. And just to get a jump start on kind of what people are thinking, let's do a round robin and see kind of, what folks' plans are for the day of the count, or what you've done in the past. Patty, do you mind starting? I know you've done this for several years now with Accord.
Hi, no, I don't mind starting at all. I myself, just so that everybody on this call knows, I will be on vacation when this is happening this year. So my housing manager, Darla, who is now on, will be taking the lead. She also participated with this last year, so this won't be her first year doing it. But I also have a question in when I'm giving my update in the timeline that was shown for, gathering the surveys. I see that it was shown that we would only have the 1 week to gather. Last year, I thought we had like 10 days. There was a little bit of a longer timeline for those surveys to come back to us. And then that still gave us 4 or 5 days to get them we submit to Paula.
Yeah.
And
we can incorporate that, I think, right, Paula?
If we could look at that just a little bit,
Sure.
because we want to make sure that we're gathering and capturing everybody
Sure.
that would come through. So typically we begin with, of course, these trainings every December. And we already have our list of community members. Darla's been updating that and continuing to add to it. The community members, partners that we outreach to, the schools, the hospitals, the libraries, the police departments, the fire departments, all of those people that would potentially see someone that is homeless or have interaction with them. We do up flyers and do Facebook posts. The flyers go out to the various partner agencies, and we also post them like in the laundromat, in the grocery stores, things like that throughout the county, because that's where people are going to either stay warm or to get something to eat, or, so we're just trying to encompass everyone that we can. And we are very rural here in Allegheny County. There's no cities. So just trying to get everyone that we can. So we start doing all of that this month. And then next month, Darla will be hosting a training for all of our partners or community members that are going to participate. That training we, since COVID, now host both in person and online, virtual. So if someone wants to join it virtually, they can. Sometimes it's a preference if they're not feeling well or they just don't want to get sick from someone else because of COVID concerns. Or sometimes it's a travel thing. I know that we have had the veterans. Michelle and Amber attends our homeless housing task force meetings as well. And it's a lot easier for them to attend to an online format than it is to travel for an hour meeting and then travel an hour or so back to, it takes up their whole day. So that will be hosted both ways. And so Darla will hold that. And then like a week later, she'll follow up with everybody again, just to say, hey, did you think of any questions? Those that have done it for several years typically don't have a lot of questions unless we've changed something major. And so then she'll follow up with them. And then of course, the day before, and then, a lot that the next day and everything, with making sure that if anyone has any questions or anything. Darla, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I've been following through with all the stuff that I have. I don't think you missed anything.
That's great. Super thorough and, great ideas to post flyers and laundromats, reaching out to PD, FD, all that good stuff. That's great.
Can I ask, are we doing an observation survey? Is that being allowed by HUD this year?
Yeah, so you can always, as part of surveying, if there's somebody who is unapproachable for whatever reason, they appear to be going through a mental health crisis, anything like that, it's always allowable to count that person via observation. So if you've identified it's clear that that person is unhoused and unsheltered, that's allowable. Unless you know the client personally, then you wouldn't want to make assumptions about the client's demographic information like gender or race.
Right. And Kelsey, that throws a huge curve to the PIT and the HDX. When you have missing information, I'm using that tool to extrapolate and guess, because they won't allow us to not record. So I would say if anybody does do an observation, if you do know this person, like I know Susie does that in some cases. There's some places that are too dangerous to go in, but she can visually identify those people because she's had experiences with them.
Right.
So entering at least their first name and last initial would probably help. I can find them and then really put in the right data for them.
It's a great point. Thanks, Paula. Well, Susie, did you want to go next on kind of what you've done in the past or plan to date?
So kind of echo what Patty said in terms of police station, flyers, libraries, bus stations, reaching out to anybody that really has individuals that are coming into their location that may be homeless. The library seems to be kind of a hot spot for that. We also have several individuals that now that we have a warming station that are coming in and staying with us. And on the nights that they're not staying with us, we know that they are staying in abandoned buildings. Maybe that something happened during their day. They didn't want to be around people, things like that. So we kind of know who those people are and generally whereabouts they're at. We used to go under the bridges and in the trenches, but it's gotten real dangerous to do that at this point. So we've done this for so long, we know our people, that we can identify them. People coming into our pantry, same type of thing. We know individuals that may not be utilizing the warming station or staying under Department of Social Services, but we know they're homeless. So it's kind of, and again, reaching out to, we have a staff member that also is at our Elmira Police Department from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. and has really wonderful communication with EPD. So they give us a lot of tips and are willing to kind of meet us out there. So, or whatever we need from them. So, I mean, it's basically all the same things. I send out information to our homeless housing task force with the forms and, if they have any questions to certainly get back with me. And if we need to do a training, we can do one. This has been kind of the same type of thing every year and most of the people know. But if there's any new staff or what have you, then we're, I let them know to reach out to us and we'll do what we can do.
Great, thank you. Liz, what about Arbor? You know, what's been done or being planned for Steuben?
Right. We have, as Paula said, have had really, really good luck working with the school districts. And I know that DSS does a great job with their sheltered count. And I know last year we also did a really good job of connecting with local law enforcement to give us tips. But kind of like Patty is in Allegheny County, we're really, really rural. So we're certainly not going into like pretty dangerous, compromising areas. But I mean, I think this year we have like a little committee, at least within Arbor, that we're planning and designing to continue connecting with people who might have encounters with someone who's experienced homelessness or something. So that's kind of where we're at this year.
Great. And Marcia and or Crystal, what about Livingston?
So I am aware, Andrew had a pretty solid process in place. We utilize members of our homeless and housing task force, all of the school McKinney-Vento liaisons. We partner with law enforcement. We have a large stakeholder, pretty active involvement with our homeless and housing task force. So we cover a lot of ground there. The training actually might be a little challenging, so I don't know if I could reach out. Obviously, neither Crystal nor I have ever done any of those. I don't know if there's any help you could offer if we had some dates. And what was the other thing I was gonna say? I don't know, it's gone out of my mind. It's gone.
Yeah, we're happy to help. Let us know.
Thank you. And the materials that Bree was reviewing, in the email, it said we would get them, but are you gonna send, I didn't get those. Are you gonna send those out?
Yes, we will.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
I wanted to mention, please, that when you complete your methodologies is that you send them to me. I'm required to put that methodology in the HDX. So in the past, I've had CARES forward them back to me, but if you could just include me when you send those out to CARES, that would be really helpful so that I can compile them. And your methodology is just how you're going to move through collecting that count. And especially in those rural communities, how you engage those rural areas. I know, speaking with Susie, and I didn't know this before, they do reach out to local pantries in the rural areas and try to get information about any homeless, you know, out in the rural community, like living in the woods in a tent, kind of thing. So if you do that, put that in your methodology so that I can add that to our HDX methodology.
Great. And Amber, anything you want to add from kind of the veteran standpoint? Any best practices around making sure that we're counting all homeless veterans?
I think just from experience in the past, when we go out, we're asking those questions. We're following the leads and their recommendations, but also just, for us in particular, we have a point of contact. So when homeless calls come in or referrals or any of that come in, that specific person's also able to, do those counts on that specific day, right? So we can count that, but we're kind of keeping track of that, but going out into the community, we're out there often. So we're really just trying to outreach anywhere we can. But yes, I do believe that in the past years, we have specifically asked questions about, whether they're veterans, and especially if they're calling in, we know that.
Great. Great. Well, Bree, did we have anything else?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Okay.
Could I just ask, could you please bring up that one part that I had asked about the timing for collection of surveys? And can we just talk about that before
Yes.
weekend, and if there's any change going to be made to that, please. Thank you. I just don't want to lose sight of it.
Yep. So you're speaking of after the count.
Correct, correct.
February
By,
one.
right, that February 1st date. Last year on our, because I keep track of and keep previous materials so that we can kind of see what we did then compared to what we're doing now. We actually didn't have them due last year. They were due to us by 4 p.m. on the Monday, a week and a half after. Because that still gave us time to get them into Paula and everything. We didn't want it to be like the day before because there's always somebody that turns them in late,
Mhm.
always. So if we could give even to Friday, February 3rd
Sure.
or Monday, the 6th, what does everyone think about that? Paula, does that sound reasonable?
That sounds reasonable. And I also think you have a lot of agencies to collect from. A lot of them are utilizing their OMH facility, OMH providers and school providers. So there's a lot of different places that we're collecting data that you're collecting surveys from. So I think that that's reasonable to consider that you have all these people to get a hold of and ask them to please send their surveys in.
Wonderful. Does the 6th work for everyone? That gives a little bit of extra time.
That worked for us. Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. It can be very flexible. All right. Well, we'll make sure to follow up with all of the forms and information to everyone as well as this training at the end. So thank you all for joining us today and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.